So next I want to introduce Laura Vecchio and Eliza Stockdale from Kids First, who will be presenting on their early help model, Easing the Burden. Laura is a team leader at Kids First and has experience working with young people and families across the mental health and child and family settings. And Eliza is a project officer for Murdoch Children's Research Institute and has experience working across government, community and research settings where she's delivered and evaluated projects aimed at improving the wellbeing of individuals and families. Over to you, Eliza and Laura.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Mandy, for introducing us. I'm just going to share my screen because I'm going to start off the presentation. Okay. So, as introduced, I am Laura, and I am the team leader here at Kids First for the Early Help program. And I'm here with Eliza, and we'll be presenting on the Kids First Early Help programs. This is a service that's been delivered between the two big growth regions in Victoria. And my presentation will go over what was guiding and the implementation and service delivery. And then I'll be handing over to Eliza to talk about the evaluation. Just bear with me. I'm just having trouble with my slides. Just bear with me for a minute. Okay. So we also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are gathered and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture, and we pay respect to elders past and present. And I am coming here from Wandering. We also celebrate and value diversity at Kids First. So, at Kids First, we have a HEART acronym that provides support to the community and in a most inclusive manner. Okay, so the early help model is funded by the Victorian Department of Families, Fairness and Housing and has been trialled across Victoria, and we're in the third year of this project. It is an early intervention initiative, and it's aimed at providing evidence-based, easily accessible support to families. We're focusing on families that parenting or caring for children under the age of 12. And a real overarching goal is to promote that help seeking in communities, and that really strengthen that community connection. And most importantly, we really want to focus on increasing parent capacity. Another key factor and objective is to reduce the need for family and statutory services such as child protection. And Kids First, it's still important to note that Kids First has a long history of supporting families in the North East metropolitan region of Melbourne. And this project, we are implementing the early help program into two council areas. So one being the city of Whittlesea, which we have got that existing presence in already. But we also approached a new community, being Wallen, which is part of the Mitchell Shire Council. So here's a little bit of a snapshot to show that from our research, we know that growth areas there, in particular, these growth areas, there's a lot of vulnerability within the community. So just just an overview, these are really quickly expanding communities, lots of new people moving into that area and families, lots of new births, lots of these parents, this is the first time they've had a child in a new community. Some are new to Australia. And if we think about like even within these quickly expanding growth areas, for areas such as within Whittlesea, they would be like places like Donnybrook or Wallet. And in the Mitchell Shire, we focused on Wallen because Mitchell Shire, that corridor is actually the fastest developing area within not just Victoria, but Australia. And Wallen in particular is really, really booming. So there's the forecast that the population growth is going to increase by 349% by the year 2041. So we went in and our research, which I'll speak about in the next slide, just showed like that snapshot. So we've got, that high level of mortgage and rental stress. There's, higher commute times. There's a high rate of family violence, and where there's lots of barriers to access health services. So, like I mentioned, we were new to Wallen, so we needed to get out there and do a deep dive and get to know the community. And we did this in collaboration with the Mitchell Shire Council. This consisted of doing interviews with community members, and it was a real cross section of people that had lived there for a long time, and also some of those families that were new. We also, and they could have been new to the area or new to Australia. And from talking to these families and people people who were providing services and part of the existing community, we developed these 5 personas just to really get a snapshot of how we should be moving forward with how we want to implement things. And a similar project was conducted in the city of Williamson. So from that, we uncovered 6 key opportunities to create this really tangible and sustainable change in via an early intervention, early help model. So here are some of a little snapshot of the 6 key themes and insights. So we knew that community building was important. This need for a structure, the opportunity to meet other community members to help or to be helped. We recognise that there's a real power and value to playgroups and kinders. That's where most people get their social interaction. They meet other parents, and it just, it's how trust is built through families, is having that regular place where your child's welcomed and you can go. We recognise that within these areas, there was a real challenge with wait lists. People were really stressed because they really wanted to have the help now. They were sick of being referred and put on a wait list. We also know that within these communities, every family is unique. They have their unique needs, and we need to be able to develop an approach that really recognises these unique challenges and is really supported and really making sure that we're sensitive to culture and emotional needs. We also recognise that one point contact. So just making sure that that support feels driven by that the support is driven by need, not by the agency's agenda or location. We want to get rid of those restrictions. We want to make sure that people know where to get support and that we're available in the community. We also recognise with these growth areas, and like the slide said before, there's a lot of mortgage stress and high rent and that sort of thing. So we recognise that when people are stressed financially, things can snowball really quickly and extend outside of what is just about finances. So making it happen, to put these findings into practice, Kids First and local government developed a consortia, and utilise key representation from local service providers. This allowed and acknowledged that there's already existing knowledge there that's of value. Was really instrumental in making sure that we were implementing an early help program that really matched what was happening for people in this, and was really incorporating relevant respect, sensitivities and knowledge. And overall, we were creating an early help program that was easily accessible, and there was no wrong door, and an easy way for people to get the support when they needed, be able to respond quickly and reduce barriers for families experiencing things like challenges in service navigating and being concerned about being exposed to judgment, or, like I said before, that waitlist fatigue. So in practice, this is what we come up with, and it's so we'll start off with the individual family support. So we call our practitioners family coaches. That's because we utilise that thinking of, like, you know, we want to be able to support and build confidence. The goals that the family coaches work with the family have been identified by the family. And we can provide that short, sharp intervention, and build up their confidence so they can navigate things themselves. So the intervention can go up to about 20 hours. And to really make sure that we are, you know, using a really purposeful approach, we adopted that single session thinking framework that the Bouverie is very famous for. Our work is very capacity building. It does that service navigation, and any of the goals that the families identify, we are able to utilise flexible funding to really support them in making sure that they can be successful. We really promote community links and community connection. So we have a good connection with our maternal health nurses and our early childhood education and care centres, schools, sporting clubs, and neighbourhood houses. That can look like us being faith-based there, having regular network meetings with them, promoting each other's services, but it can also be utilising some of that brokerage and flexible funding so that children and families are engaged in community activities and sport. Like the previous presenters talked about, evidence-based groups are really important. So we provide those on a regular basis. We do them both online and in person, and we also recognise that sometimes we need to put it like also make it inclusive for dads as well. So out of hours, or even having like groups that are just for dads. The ones that we offer are the tuning into kids, so supporting parents to really understand behaviours in their children, and also self-regulating and what they can do, circular security, that attachment, triple P feelers, once again, like, you know, really understanding the behaviours in their children and how that affects them and what phone strategies. And it really builds a wonderful connection to community and each other. We also do emotional coaching because, and also an adaptation version for families who report that they are parenting neurodiverse children. We also, like I said before, we do some face-based work within some of those universal services, like at the schools. That also allows us to work with the school to do some capacity building with their professionals or other places that we are visiting in the community. And we can also offer secondary consultation at there. So it's sort of that being there, you become part of it, and you work together in collaboration to really support the community. And another thing that I'm really impressed with the team is that they do some peer support group from after they've got that knowledge of who they're supporting. They'll come to me and they'll say, you know, this is what the community is asking for. So just one to highlight is Harmony Story Time in Wallet, and that story time that's in different community languages, and then it's followed by a wellbeing activity for parents. So while the children are getting a book read to them in different languages, the parents are really getting some ideas to how they can look after their own wellbeing and meet each other. So that's pretty much a little bit of an overview of what we provide and what guided our early help programs at Kids First. And I just want to say thanks for the opportunity to present, and I'm going to hand over to Eliza now, who's going to talk about the evaluation.
Thank you, Laura. Just bear with me while I grab my slides. Oops. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all online this morning. My name's Eliza. I work at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute. Today's agenda includes an overview of the early help model evaluation, key findings related to implementation enablers and barriers, and the impact of the early help model on families. before we close and move into the question time. So in 2022, Kids First commissioned the Centre for Community Child Health at the Murdoch Children's Research Institute to undertake an evaluation of their early help model. So the evaluation began in August 22 and finished in May 24. The overall purpose of the evaluation was to support Kids First in their ongoing implementation and adaptation of the early help model, and also to understand its short-term impact on selected key outcomes. It comprised two components, formative and summative. So the formative component sought to understand and improve the design and implementation of the model. It involved initial clarificative evaluation activities. So we did a document review and consulted with the model designers, and these findings were used to determine the model's golden thread or key pathway of cause and effect of the model. So the golden thread activity was completed with consortia partners during the clarificative workshop in 2022. And it helped determine the inputs, the resources, and the short-term outcomes that we would evaluate. So the summative component focused on understanding the short-term impact of the model. So typically, summative evaluation is conducted after a longer period of implementation to allow programs to mature. Therefore, the summative findings that I will be presenting today should be interpreted as preliminary findings. So throughout 3 waves of data collection, we conducted 3 surveys with family coaches, 35 consultations involving key stakeholders, family coaches, and the Whittlesea and Mitchell consortia groups. On top of the consultation work we did, Kids First undertook interviews, observations, and a focus group with parents, and they also provided de-identified data collected from parents. The data collection activities occurred across both the Whittlesea and the Mitchell Early Help hubs. We had 4 key evaluation questions. So the formative questions included: how is the model anticipated to work? What are we learning about implementation? What is working well and what needs improving? And the summative evaluation question was: what is the short-term impact of the model? So now I'm going to share some of the key findings. So the early help model had a number of key implementation enablers. I've only included a handful in the interest of time, but some of the key enablers included family coaches being connected with universal services, or as Laura mentioned, co-located with universal services. So this was thought to increase the likelihood of parent engagement with the model, particularly where the family coach is co-locating with the service. The informal nature of the model in terms of the soft entry approach and the use of warm referrals. The model is also thought to be more appealing to families than a referral to a service via Orange Door or Child Protection due to the potential for negative associations with these services. The characteristics of staff. So family interview data indicated that families had a positive relationship with their family coach. They observed characteristics like being non-judgmental, friendly, easy to talk to, understanding, and a good listener. Other stakeholders liked that the family coaches were from the local community. So increasing community awareness about the hub. So awareness among both families and service providers was identified as a challenge for implementation in wave 1 of the evaluation. The implementation team worked hard to improve awareness by increasing the number of services that family coaches were co-locating with, increasing promotion of programs and activities, and presenting information about the model to services and at community events. By waves 2 and 3, data suggested that there was increasing awareness about both hubs. And lastly, the single session framework training that Laura mentioned. Family coaches who participated in this training agreed that it provided them with a useful framework to implement that short-term individualised support component of the model. They reported that the training helped provide structure to client sessions and included some useful strategies to support them to work within the 10 hours. So here are some of the key implementation barriers. These included sufficiency of dosage. So findings showed that family coaches understand that families can receive either 10 hours of short-term support or one episode, which can be extended to 20 hours or 2 episodes if needed. So while staff acknowledge that the model is an early intervention and providing more than 20 hours of support is an indicator of a tertiary intervention, most found it challenging to support families within one episode, and some felt 2 episodes of support was more feasible. Supporting families from a non-English speaking background. So the early help client data showed that around half of early help families speak a language other than English at home. And in Wallen, 1/5 of families were refugees or people seeking asylum. Family coaches reported various challenges supporting these families within the one episode, the 10 hours, due to the time that it can take supporting clients using interpreters and also sourcing services that families are eligible for within their visa conditions. So Wave 1 evaluation findings also indicated there is a lack of specialist supports and services available in the Mitchell region to refer families to. At the time, Mitchell Shire didn't have a local paediatrician, and there was a shortage of allied health services, psychologists, and other mental health services in the area. So long waitlist times and the need to travel outside of the Shire were also identified as challenges. By Wave 3, a local paediatrician was servicing the Mitchell community, although service gaps still remained, particularly with access to mental health services. And lastly, managing referrer expectation around the brokerage component of the model. So Wave 3 family coach interviews indicated a growing community awareness of the early help funding intervention, with some families referred to the program specifically to access the brokerage. This posed a bit of a challenge for family coaches during those initial meetings with families, as they needed to clarify that financial support was tied to a parenting goal. So evaluation findings indicated preliminary evidence of the impact of early help for families, particularly for the short-term outcomes that the evaluation explored as specified in the golden thread. So findings showed increased family awareness of available parenting supports, increased family willingness to engage with parenting supports, and families' increased awareness of their own needs. Evaluation data also pointed to an association between early help engagement and other outcomes, like increased parenting self-efficacy, improved family functioning, improved social connection, increased financial literacy, and improved parenting confidence. So Kids First provided us with de-identified me as a parent data, or MAP data, during Wave 3. So MAP is a validated measure of parenting self-efficacy. That is the parent's perception of how successfully they can parent their child. So collection of this data is a trial requirement. The data is collected by family coaches at the start of the parent's time with early help and where possible upon their exit. It's collected for individual parent coaching and also for the group parenting programs. So you can see on the slide there, just over half of families, 54%, reported an improvement as a result of their individual sessions with the family coach. And most families, 88%, reported an improvement in their parenting self-efficacy as a result of attending those parenting programs that Laura mentioned before, the Tuning Into Kids, Circle of Security, and Triple P. Overall, an improvement in parenting self-efficacy was observed for 2/3 of parents who completed the MAP at both time points. Conversations with Kids First after the evaluation indicated that improvements may actually be higher than the survey data indicates, due to families self-rating higher at the beginning of the program due to fear of judgment or repercussions. And that was my last slide. Thank you.
Thank you both, Eliza and Laura. Really interesting program, lots of things to delve into. We've actually run out of time, but if people want to address questions to you, feel free to put them into the chat. And what you can do is have a little chit chat around there.